And now it's time for today's guest. Marissa Mullen is the founder and creative director of the popular cheese lovers community, That Cheese Plate. From recipes to workshops, That Cheese Plate serves as a centralized hub for cheese plate inspiration and the goal of spreading the joy of cheese across the globe. Here to tell us more is Marissa Mullen. Hi, thanks for coming on. Good to see you too.
This is beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
So nice.
It's so beautiful, and I just want to say, I was a child that used to not like cheese. And one of the greatest moments of my life is when I started to love cheese. When I went to Italy and had real cheese for the first time.
Well, in Italy, you will have the best cheese experience you can have.
Right,
so.
it changed my life because nothing's better than a cheese plate.
Yeah, I mean, it brings people together. It's beautiful. It's a form of expression. It's the best.
So tell us about That Cheese Plate community. Like, how did it start? What's it about?
Yeah, so it actually started when I was in college. It was a way for me to bring my friends together through wine and cheese parties, essentially. And I wanted to figure out a way. On Instagram at the time, it was mostly like smoothie bowls and puppies were the trends. And I realized that there was like a place missing for cheese plates. So I started posting my own photos, my own creations. And over time, it just started getting to be this bigger and bigger community. Like for the first year, it took like, I don't know, probably took a year to get to 5,000 followers. And mainly that was me just like sitting through class and college bored, liking #cheese as long as I can. And then it kind of worked with like exponential growth where it took, I started in 2013, so 6 years ago. And it took from then to now to reach 117,000 followers.
Wow.
But the big jump happened last year when basically just all this momentum started happening with press, and then all of a sudden it jumped like 50,000 followers in like 2 months.
Well, cheese is in right now. We love cheese.
I know, it's like people are finally realizing that cheese plates are the best appetizer
They are.
you could have.
And your hope is you want to see the cheese plates come to life like a painting at the MoMA, right?
Yes.
You want to bring people together, inspire conversation.
We're the dream makers.
We're the dream makers here. What do you love, what do you love most about cheese? And why do you think it brings so much joy?
It does. Oh, well, it's so versatile, first of all. It comes in so many different textures, flavors. This plate here we have, I did 2 types of goat's cheese. This is the brunch plate.
Yeah.
Ooh, can we get into it?
Oh yeah, dig on in.
Yay.
So
Come on,
I just
get
love,
cheese.
I think for me, when I was younger, my parents would always put me on cheese plate duty for entertaining. And I always remember seeing the reaction of my parents' friends when they'd come into a party and see the plate there. It always invoked a sense of excitement. And I think with cheese plates, you can be super creative with what you build. You can do different themes, you can do different colors, you can use different textures of cheese. And for me, it's almost like this way of expressing my creativity and like painting with food, playing with my food.
Yeah,
as an
it does
adult.
feel like that when I'm looking at it right now. I could see you sort of putting together a painting.
Like you notice a well-organized cheese plate, and it does.
Yeah.
This is not just blowing steam. Like this is very beautiful. This is a work of art.
And there's something so decadent about a cheese plate that then has sort of like fruits falling over.
Yeah.
nuts.
Crackers.
It feels very luxurious.
And we're talking about how beautiful it is, but I think for a lot of people who maybe don't have that like skill, it can be intimidating, which is why you offer tutorials on your page. So take me through why that's important, because I do think it would be intimidating if somebody maybe showed you how to do it.
Definitely. So I started another Instagram. As I was building that cheese plate out and kept making these cheese plates, I realized I made them in the same order every time. And this order I coined cheese by numbers, which is it's essentially paint by numbers with cheese. So how it works is step 1 is cheese, step 2 is meat, step 3 is produce, step 4 is crunchy items, step 5 is dips, and step 6 is garnish. And once you put it all together, you can make a beautiful cheese plate. So it kind of takes what seems to be really intimidating at first glance, breaking it down step by step, makes it easy for everyone to do. So when I made that Instagram, it kind of just blew up overnight. The Rachel Ray Show found it through a hashtag, and
That's awesome.
they emailed me. This was last year when it kind of all started happening.
Wow.
And they're like, hey, we found cheese by numbers. And I was like, okay, not that cheese plate, the one with like the followers. They're like, no, cheese by numbers. We don't talk about that. I'm like, okay,
Right.
so go
Wow.
on Rachel Ray, talk about cheese by numbers. Overnight, it hits like 15,000 followers. I'm like, all right, I got to connect these two together. So what it is now, so my friend Sarah Galanchi, she illustrated this. She's also illustrating all the plates for my book coming out. But essentially, I was creating too many cheese plates for her to illustrate. So I started this concept called Swipe to Build. And if you go on Cheese by Numbers, you can look at a cheese plate and swipe and build in each step. So like the first slide is cheese, the second slide is meat, and it just builds upon each other.
Oh, cute.
So I think that concept really clicked with people and resonated, because after I started doing the swipe to build, people were tagging me in their photos and the cheese plates were looking amazing. And I'm like, you guys did it, yes. This happened the other day too, because what you see down the middle, that's something I call the salami river, which is a shape of meat.
So good.
Yeah. So it's just a way that you fold your meat.
Throw me into the salami river, please.
Yeah, I know. There's one on this plate too.
You already
It's
went to
not
Fire
covered in
Island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I did a tutorial of how to build the salami river, like very step by step. And now people are killing it.
I'm like a little boy. I'm like salami.
I mean,
river.
see, some people are like, haha, salami river. Other people are like, wow, yes, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm like, it goes either way.
But I love that you've then taken it one step further, taken it off, social media, and you actually have workshops and that cheese class that people can go to and have a hands-on experience.
Yeah, so my goal with the Instagram, when I first made it, one of my goals was to create a cookbook. The other goal was to make something that is tangible out of Instagram, because I feel like with social media, you can never rely on that to be your source of income in life, because one day it could, I don't know, get deleted. That day that Instagram was down, everyone was like, oh my God, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So I really wanted to create a way to make this tangible and to also teach people in person how to make cheese plates and see their reactions that I used to see my friends' parents have at parties and whatnot. And so I started something called That Cheese Class, where essentially it's like a paint and sip class where you like paint the canvas and drink wine. But instead, everyone has a personal cheese board. There's a whole buffet table that's in the Cheese by Numbers order. Everyone has wine. I teach them how to make a cheese plate. They build their own. We do like a quick Instagram photography lesson and whatnot. And it's so much fun. And just seeing people doubt themselves at first and then create their cheese plate and be so excited about what they've created is just like, it makes me happy for.
Sounds like fun.
Inspiring.
Yeah. It's fun.
And you used to work in the music industry.
Yes.
So that feels like such a weird jump, but like what made you decide it? Were you just like in a meeting and there was a cheese plate and you were like, I'm gonna do that,
That is
screw this.
Well, it's funny because I actually was here, I think a year ago with John Batiste. I was his personal assistant. And as I was sitting up in the green room, I was like, it's so funny. A year ago, I was running to Sweet Green, sweating, like carrying all this wardrobe, just like running around this place. And now I'm here on the show, which is a very trippy thing.
That's amazing.
We make dreams come true.
Yes, but essentially, so working in the music industry, like entertainment, it's late nights, crazy weekend travel for me personally. I didn't really have a lot of time off for myself. And when I did have time off, making a cheese plate was like this therapeutic outlet in a sense. So like I would have a Saturday off and I'd just wake up and go to the grocery store and buy ingredients and then go into my apartment, nice natural light, put on a nice soothing playlist, make a cheese plate, and then invite all my friends over at night and have a cheese party.
That's the important part. I was like, then do you just eat the cheese plate on your own?
No,
Because that's what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, we do both. I mean, I've definitely taken down cheese plates by myself.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
The friends coming over is an important aspect, which is also, so this whole idea of a cheese party, I have a group text called The Cheese Party now, and so with writing a book, it's like you have so much cheese around all the time, and so I'm always like, cheese party, assemble, come on over, let's eat. But yeah, so for me, like I always loved cheese ever since I was young, and I always kind of had this kind of cheese Instagram on the side anonymously while I was working in the music industry. But as it started growing, I kind of became more of the face of it and was like, okay, this is my Instagram, this is my business now. And it's funny because there are two parallels between music and cheese. I almost treat it as like cheese is the artist and I'm its manager. And so there's like, I have a merch store and I'm like doing a book tour and like the marketing and kind of creating this whole fan base around it, creating terms like Salami River and doing this whole like crowd engagement where people will tag me in their cheese plates. I'll post them on my story. So it almost has this, like everything that I've learned leading up to this point has helped me with growing this business. So it kind of is more connected than that.
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah, I feel like you're such a pioneer because I would never guess that this could be a thing. And I feel like when you tell people like, I make cheese plates, that's my gig. Like, are they just blown away? Like if I was on a date with you and you were like, that's what I do, I'd be like, okay, she's a compulsive liar. She's so beautiful, but she's a compulsive liar.
It's been an interesting time because I've only quit my job 4 months ago. So this is like still a new thing. And going to parties, meeting people, and the question comes like, so what do you do? I still have not nailed down my elevator pitch. I'm like,
Have you heard of cheese?
so, yeah, I'm like, I run an Instagram about cheese plates, and usually it's like if they're like 40 plus, they're like, what are you even talking about? And if they're like kind of millennial demographic, they're like, okay, what's it called? And then they look it up, like, oh, cool, great. So I think I need to kind of figure out like my straight elevator pitch of
You
like,
need a title.
yeah, like
What do you call yours?
director of cheese.
Yeah, or like,
Or like-
cheese entrepreneur, like something that is. We'll work on
cheese queen.
it. Ooh.
Cheese queen.
Cheese queen. I like cheese queen.
Queen.
Bow down.
This might be a little blasphemous sounding, but I'm not totally into cheese. I'm into sort of more milder cheeses.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what cheese you might recommend to sort of a beginner cheese.
Yeah, so I honestly, it's a great question because
But
a
you
lot
know,
of
I
people.
don't want to get American. You know, I want to still look a little classy.
Yeah. Well, I'd say cheddar is a very classic cheese. There are some sharper cheddars, but I feel like the flavor of cheddar you have in other food items, like in cheddar, like in tacos, and So I feel like that is an easy cheese for the palate. My favorite kind of like more fancy gateway cheese is called. It's called Humboldt Fog, and it's from
Humboldt Fog.
Humboldt Fog.
Yum.
And it's from Cypress Grove, and it's sold at like Whole Foods and also grocery stores around. But it's a soft ripened goat cheese.
Okay.
And so instead of having that like really tangy goat cheese flavor, it's a little bit more mild. So the inside is like a chev, but then on the outside it's a little bit like smoother and kind of more creamy. So that one I always say, like in my cheese classes, I'm like, this is a gateway cheese. If you put this on the plate, you can be like, try this. Just trust me, try it. And it's good to pair with other items too, because it's like if you pair it with something sweet, it gives you that contrast, or something salty. Like when you want to pair, you do like two similar items or two polar opposites. So like cheese and charcuterie go well together because they're both super salty, but then cheese and jam go together because they're polar opposites. So
That makes sense.
I feel like you should try that one.
Okay, I appreciate that.
It's good.
And of course, you mentioned before, but you have a book coming out.
Yes.
It's going to be hitting stands, I think, February 2020.
February 2020.
So give us a little teaser about what we can expect.
Yeah, so I have 6 plates left. I'm in the final stretch. I have literally 3 days left of shooting this book. It's been the past 4 months of my life, just in my apartment. So I'm doing all the photos myself with my iPhone, actually, because it's accessible,
That's
you know?
awesome.
Wow.
But my setup is like my white kitchen table, a poster board, and my plates. And so it's 60 cheese plates and cheese by numbers maps, and then there's 4 recipes per chapter. So it's separated in chapters, like chapter 1, cheese, chapter 2, meat, like the cheese by numbers method. And then the narrative throughout is how cheese plates are a form of self-care, but not in the way that like wear a face mask and self-care, but more of like follow your passion, live your authentic truth, like try to figure out what makes you happy. Because for me, it was these cheese plates. And so it kind of takes you on that journey of how I got to where I am right now, but then also gives you this really in-depth, step-by-step how to make a cheese plate. So like through all different seasons, like you can open one up, say the brunch plate is on it. You have your cheese by numbers map illustrated with the cheese plate, and then you flip the page and it's step-by-step how to build it. So I'm hoping it can be just a guide for people to like bring to the grocery store with them and like share with friends. And
Well, it also sounds like an amazing gift.
Yeah, great gift. We're missing Christmas season, but like
Whatever.
Next year, it always comes again.
Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Mother's Day. Coming out for Valentine's Day, perfect for that.
We're gonna need this in 2020. This is gonna bring us happiness
That's
and
what
hope.
I was thinking.
Yes.
I'm like, this will be a good little companion in 2020.
Exactly. Marissa, thank you so much for joining us. This is so much fun. You can access recipes and workshops from That Cheese Plates at thatcheeseplate.com, and look out for Marissa's book in February 2020. That's all from us. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same table. Bye, everyone.